Welcome to the show, gearheads. That intro included lots of names, Bob Varsha, but the week have fallen and
Yeah.
it's just us two left.
Where are they? What a bunch of wussies.
Well, you know what? It wasn't the most exciting race, but there was plenty to keep me entertained with that Australian Grand Prix. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know it's late here in the US of A. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook and YouTube, and we appreciate all that. But yeah, Bob, we got Charles Leclaire with another win this season. Pretty easy start to finish looking race for him, right?
Yeah, certainly after Max Verstappen suffered some kind of an engine problem, a fire on board the Red Bull that dropped him out. Suddenly, Leclerc found himself with a 20-second lead that he would never give back. So it was a pretty easy walkover type of race for him. Sergio Perez picks up some useful points. And there are the Mercedes factory cars, George Russell ahead of Lewis Hamilton. We heard Hamilton on the radio during the race say to his team, "You guys have put me in a very difficult position." I don't know what he meant by that, unless it was, "Are you going to make me ask you to tell George to let me go by?"
Yeah, that was
But maybe
interesting.
not.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making too much out of that. But good points for Lando Norris, for Daniel Ricardo. Both great stories. And they finished 5th and 6th.
Ocon too.
Alex
Nice.
Albon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Alex Albon getting 10th, the single point, which is the first for Williams this year, leaving only Aston Martin as a team without championship points thus far this year. And you got to feel for not just for Verstappen, but for Carlos Sainz, who spun off in that very tricky turn 9 and 10 section, which really ended his race before it began. We almost saw some other drivers, including Kevin Magnussen, spin off at that same point. And I think Fernando Alonso did some agricultural racing at that point too. So, with those high points and low points along the way, on the whole, it was a good race. Fortunately, this track is so fast that it went by pretty quickly. So, you had to work hard to get really bored.
That's true. We did get to see a lot of some of the other drivers, though, with Leclerc out front like that. We got to see a lot of Magnussen, too.
Yeah. The two Haas teammates ran pretty close together. And despite all the pit stops and everything, managed to find themselves very close to each other. In fact, 13th and 14th, Schumacher and Magnussen. A point we need to make about Alex Albon picking up that point for Williams in 10th place was he went almost the entire race on one set of hard Pirelli tires, which is pretty extraordinary, I think, given the wear that we saw drivers like Verstappen and Alonso suffering with during the course of the race. And they brought Alex Albon in with about 2 laps to go, sent him back out again. And hey, Bob's your uncle, a point.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I noticed Esteban Ocon. I mean, it's just I'm excited for him to get some points too.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought that young Esteban Ocon would be, for my money, the steadying influence in that Alpine team and not the 2-time world champion, Fernando Alonso. I think Ocon is doing a terrific job. And keep in mind that, like Alonso, Ocon stepped away from the sport. In fact, he was pushed. He didn't jump, and took a hiatus of a season and came back. So, I think that really speaks highly of his skills, that he can come back and start scoring points, and hopefully he'll pick up another victory or two.
Yeah, and of course, you talked about it, but Max Verstappen, this is the second 2 out of 3 races DNF. I mean, that's really pretty huge,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's well, in the first race, both cars suffered the problem. Only Verstappen here. And it looked like it was some kind of fluid fire or something, which could be as simple as a fitting or a seal that worked its way loose. But one way or another, the points got shuffled. Now Charles Leclerc finds himself with a massive, okay, let me do the math in my head, 34-point lead over new second place runner George Russell, who is now the Mercedes team leader. Carlos Sainz drops to third. Sergio Perez moves up from seventh to fourth. Lewis Hamilton remains in fifth spot, if my math is correct. Max Verstappen drops from third down to sixth. And Esteban Ocon somehow manages to drop one spot from sixth to seventh. And that was all the calculations I had time to do. If you've got the official update, by all means, jump in.
No, I don't think it's there yet. It is not updated on the F1 website. And
Okay.
I didn't get any far. I got less far than you did, so I'm not even going to try.
We saw a lot of close running too. And
Yeah.
the announcers commented at one point, a lot of nose to tail running. And I'm sorry that the announcers kind of couched it in terms of, boy, he must be getting frustrated running behind that guy, when actually this is what we wanted the new Formula One cars of 2022 to do. Pack those cars up, make them have to shuck and jive one way or the other, trying to create a passing situation. So I think it was, more proof of concept of the new for 2022 cars.
Yeah, that's a good point, because this is exactly what we spent all this machinations for years and all the time and effort to do. So I think the goal has been achieved. I'm just
I would have to say so.
Yep, and I was just looking down. I'm looking at the driver's stand now. It hadn't been updated. I thought it clicked over, but Guan Yu though just out of the points there.
Boy, isn't he doing a heck of a job
Yeah,
as a rookie in Formula One? He has really been impressive over these first three races.
yep. We got a couple people on YouTube. Did you hear this? I didn't hear it, but 419,000 in attendance for the race weekend. I heard that predicted. This is TB12 on YouTube. And if that's the case, remember last year in Austin here, 400,000 was declared the best attended race of all time. So 419 would now be another record. And I have a feeling that we may see this happen again and again and again if the venues will hold that many people.
Yeah, that would be great. Of course, Australia, having missed the last two seasons with pandemic issues, really had a chance to build up that appetite in Australia for Formula One. And Australia has a glittering record in worldwide motorsports, despite their far distant location down under. So yeah, the Aussies, they have produced great drivers, great champions, New Zealand as well. So I imagine there were a lot of folks coming from all over the antipodes to come to Melbourne and have a great weekend watching Formula One.
Kevin Kelly messaged us, and let's see what he said. Think about it. First time Ferrari's had an engineer as a team principal. Yeah, I was looking at the Ferrari team last week for our wheel to wheel show, and Chris and I was looking at the engineers, the technical talent within Ferrari, and I noticed that too. I thought that was interesting, and because Chris and I were talking about the Ferrari team, how there's some balance about that emotion. I feel like the good and the bad of the emotional Italian Ferrari leadership. You get the good and bad. You get all that emotion, but you can also get some decisions that were questionable over the last few years. But I feel like they've got a little more balance across the board there now.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, it goes to the general heightened competitiveness of the series.
Yep. What about Schumacher? Schumacher finishing ahead of Magnussen. What do you think about his this weekend, actually?
Well, I mean, it's great. I mean, Schumacher's talent beginning to show through a little bit, because Magnussen, as we all know, is very good around this track. He made his Formula One debut years and years ago in a McLaren in Australia, qualified seventh, I think, and finished fourth. No, I take that back. Qualified fourth and finished on the podium. So, I mean, Magnussen is a heck of a peddler, and So for Schumacher to have that kind of success against him, although, it's worth pointing out, Magnussen was complaining about the balance issues on the car right from Friday. They could not seem to manage it to his taste. So, if he didn't have the weapon that he prefers, then maybe it wasn't quite a fair fight. But heck, that takes nothing away from Mick Schumacher coming back from that massive crash in Saudi Arabia just 2 weeks ago to do as well as he did and outrun his pretty highly regarded teammate.
Yeah, and it's funny. All the interviews kept asking Mick Schumacher, "Well, how are you feeling?" And he's like, "Oh, I feel great." And they go, "No, how are you feeling after the crash?" So I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that was either
Show us the bruises.
that was either him just being a kid and going, "I feel fine," or him avoiding the question. But hey, our producer looked up. He did confirm. ESPN confirms the 420,000 figure, besting the 400K at USGP, and the all-time record. I guess I thought the 400 that was an all-time record at USGP last year here in Austin, but apparently 520 in 1995 at in Australia at Adelaide, at the final race at Adelaide. So that's a big number, but
Yeah, we did have massive crowds. Adelaide was what I call my Australian Grand Prix, because when I was calling the races for television, we went to Adelaide for the races. I've never been to the Melbourne circuit, to be honest. But Adelaide, which included large stretches of straightaway and a lot of private land of a horse track, a hippodrome, as it were. So they had plenty of room to build grandstands, and they had massive grandstands. I noticed here in Melbourne, they seem to have added seating to the racetrack as well. So, it sounds like things are really going well for the sport, at least in Australia.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and we'll reset at the top of the hour, and we'll continue with our Formula One breakdown of the Australian Grand Prix.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
All right, Gearheads, we are breaking down the Australian Grand Prix, Formula One, with Charles Leclerc winning again, looking fantastic in the Ferrari. The Ferrari looking like the car to beat, no doubt, this year. We will see how that breaks down. This is John Massengale. I've got Bob Varsha joining me over Zoom, and I was going to say that Chris Medland was going to be joining us with some live interviews from Albert Park in Australia, but he is not well. He's ill and not able to join us. I did get a message from him earlier today that he's feeling a little better, but he was not able to join us. Didn't want him to. I said, hey, don't worry about us. We got this under control, so you go get better. Jonathan Green, normally with us. He's here in Austin out at COTA doing the MotoGP, so he's got to be on the mics in just a few hours, so we didn't ask him to stay up late. And so Bob Varsha and I are going to hold down the fort for you guys.
Oh, but it's okay for me to stay up late. With Formula E in Rome coming up in a few hours.
That's right, Bob. You're not even going to go to bed. You're just going to keep rolling on till tomorrow.
Well, we qualify at 4 a.m. Eastern time, and we race at, let me see, I know I've got this, 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, we've got it
it's
all
like being
going
back
on.
in college.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you, John.
Okay, yes, sir.
At which race this season did Daniel Ricardo score his first championship points?
Woohoo, Daniel Ricardo. Oh, that's fantastic. And good points too with what, he finished sixth? Or was
you get what, 8 points? I think?
Yeah. That's fantastic.
I looked at that stat and I thought that cannot be. Certainly Ricardo must have scored somewhere else this year.
No.
Even though we've only had 2 other races, but nope.
No, it didn't surprise me when you said that, because I've been so focused on how badly they've started. To me, they were started poorly, and Haas started great, and also like Bottas started great, and he ended up into the points today, which is great. But I knew that both McLaren cars had not scored points, so I kind of wish Daniel had finished ahead of Norris here in Australia, just for the home field.
Yeah. Now this sets up some interesting storylines for the next race at Imola in Italy. Another very, very fast racetrack. And we'll see if the the brands and the teams and the drivers who seem to come alive, including Mercedes and McLaren, can still do it when they go to Italy in a few weeks.
Well, and I'll be really interested to get some of the takes from like Zach Brown. What did you change? I want to find out what happened. What did they do different? And the same thing from Gunther Steiner. What happened? Why'd you guys fall so far back? And
We'll have to give Zach Brown a real ration because he's not with the team in Australia. He's driving one of his just breathtaking collection of classic sports cars at Long Beach in the IMSA Vintage event this weekend. God, it's only Saturday night, Sunday morning. I keep feeling like the next thing that's going to happen is it's Monday.
I know. Yeah, I had that same feeling. Yeah, I watched out at COTA while I was there for MotoGP today. I was watching the IMSA race because my son's team racing the McLaren was out there. They were doing really great, and they ended up dropping from 4th to 9th, but they're doing really good in the championship. So I was watching out at Long Beach too. A lot going on with IndyCar and everything else out there. But
yeah.
So what else today, Bob? Just looking through the list. Vettel, of course, not finishing. We didn't talk about really Carlos Sainz either, because right off the bat, did we ever hear what happened to his start? I mean, either he just blew the clutch and blew the tires out, or did he have?
Well, he started on the hard tire, so he had very little grip compared to those around him.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw something interesting from Alfa Romeo, which of course uses the Ferrari driveline. Bottas was saying after his horrible start in Saudi Arabia that they have some kind of a mechanical condition. He called it an oscillation in the clutch package that made it difficult to get a good start. And I imagine having the hard compound tire on just made it even more difficult. So that might have led to some of Sainz's problems early on in the race when he just dropped back. Of course, early on in the race, he only got about lap 2 before he came hauling the mail through turn 9 and went off driver's right and spun, and was very lucky not to be collected in traffic before he beached it and couldn't get out.
And those hard tires could have easily been part of that second problem, because he may not have been quite up to temp on those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially with that new surface that they laid down for the first time since 1994 in Melbourne. It's I'm sure it's a great asphalt, but any kind of road surface like that, especially one laid as smoothly as is required for a Tier 1 temporary circuit in Formula One, is going to be a very fine aggregate. It's not going to have a lot of the little chunks of pavement, if you will, that the tires can use to provide mechanical grip. So until this surface weathers in just a bit, you've got to be really careful when you're forming tire strategy going to Melbourne.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, I want to say a shout out to a couple of YouTube comments. Andrew says, awesome job burning the midnight oil, literally. Hashtag up all night. And he also says, Lando was managing some sort of issue, and the team told Daniel not to pressure Lando so they could get both cars home. Sky Sports also reporting that 419,000 attendees, so that looks to be official. I had another thought about looking through the grid a while ago.
Keep in mind, with regard to that figure, the Australian supercars were out there hashing around in Melbourne as well. And that is far and away the #1 form of motorsport in Australia. So anytime you gather some supercars, and actually some of the drivers like Sergio Perez, I think, climbed into one.
Yeah.
Anytime you see those cars going around, as well as I do, they're really spectacular stock style cars. And I can imagine that helps keep the crowd entertained.
Yeah, I mentioned in the pre-show about getting to ride in one, but at COTA,
Yeah,
They were fantastic. It was really fun to see those cars up close and see them racing at COTA. Man, I wish that was supposed to be like a several year contract. That did not happen. The supercars did not ever come back to
yeah.
COTA. I think that was
I
20.
was there for that race, and all the drivers wanted to run the full Grand Prix circuit. They didn't want to run the
Yeah,
short circuit they ran them on.
I don't think COTA's ever run any major race for sure through that short circuit where they cut through back there. I don't know if they've ever run any other, no major race at all. I know for sure, but that was unusual. Oh, let's see. Looking through, there was one that caught my eye a while ago. Ricardo, Gasly. What about Gasly? Looking good. Where is he in the standings now? I wonder if they've updated these standings. Producer says they have in my ear. Let's see. Driver standings. Yeah, Bob, let me run down these real quick. So Charles Leclerc's got 71 points now. George Russell, and you got that right, he's now in second with 37 points. Then Carlos Sainz with 33. Sergio Perez with 30. Hamilton with 28. Verstappen with 25. Ocon with 20. Norris with 16. Magnussen with 12. Bottas with 12. It's funny, I've been talking about those two. Ricardo with 8. Gasly with 6. Tsunoda with 4. Alonso with 2. Zhou Guanyu with 1. And Albon with 1. So, but look how tight that is from seventh to third, really tight, within 12 points. It's really interesting looking at this. If you'd have taken this to Vegas before the season started, I think if you got this right, I think you'd be the Powerball style winner.
Yeah. And in some of the countries around the world, like Great Britain, like England, betting on Formula One is a very popular form of sports gambling.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we bet on Formula One?
I think you can now. I think that was about 2 or 3 years ago. I think they announced it. I always have to cage those thoughts because the pandemic kind of froze time for me. I think it was like at least 3 years ago, maybe 4. I've got the new.
Well, with Formula One going to Las Vegas, you can be sure we're going to be able to bet on Formula One sometime soon.
Yeah, good point. Hey, we've got a couple of clips that we're going to play later in the show. We've got one from Greg Maffei, who's the CEO of Liberty Media, of course, the company that owns Formula One. When he was at Vegas, Chris Medland did that one for us, and we've got another one from Stefano Domenicali, CEO of Formula One, also at Vegas, talking about those. So they're just short little clips, but they're insightful because there's some little tidbits in there that I thought were really interesting. So we'll play those here in a bit. But let me update they've got the constructor standings updated. So Ferrari's 104, big lead, Bob. Mercedes still second with 65, but they've widened the gap over Red Bull down to 55. Then McLaren 24, then Renault. Alpine Renault with 22, Alfa Romeo with 13, Haas with 12, AlphaTauri 10, Mercedes, Williams 1 and 0 for Aston Martin still. So also coming up later in the show, we do have a nice interview. I was thinking that we'd have this for tonight too, because with Alpine scoring some points tonight with Otmar. Chris had a good interview with Otmar, and he talks about Las Vegas, and that's part of it too. But let me get a word in from our sponsor. CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60. Our digital world is more than just interconnected, it's interdependent. And because of that, security is a top concern for every organization. The Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team knows they're a potential target for a host of digital attacks, which is why they leverage the CrowdStrike Falcon platform to deploy end-to-end security solution. CrowdStrike revolutionized cybersecurity by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. Our cloud-native Falcon platform protects and defends organizations against increasingly complex threats, so you can have the peace of mind to focus on your business momentum, not what's trying to stop it. That's protection that powers you. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. And in this crazy world with Russian hackers and everything else, I think it's probably a good time to go to crowdstrike.com/XM. But let's
I,
go. Let's go
I
ahead
think
and.
of that every,
Oh, you do?
yeah, I think of CrowdStrike every time I hear one of these, cyber
Yep.
warfare stories on the news.
Yep, I agree. Let's go ahead and get our quick break in, and when we come back, we'll continue our breakdown of the Australian Grand Prix. We got some other Formula One stories. You're listening to Speed City, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
All right, welcome back to the show. Hey, Bob, we were talking during the break. We want to talk some pit stops because I was trying to find it, but I think that I know that McLaren's been the best this year, right? And they talked about that during the race today. And because you brought it up too, they had another good pit stop today. I think 2.31, so a 2:31 is the fastest this year, and that was McLaren earlier in one of the first two races. And they also had, I think, a 2:41 earlier, and then today they had a 2:40, which is what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's the old record was like 193 or 1.93 or something, but it's a lot harder this year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, these the new tire and wheel combinations weigh a lot more than the old ones did, in keeping with the new, longer, heavier Formula One cars of 2022. Yeah, try this. Go to your local gym or your basement or your fitness club or wherever you can find a set of free weights and grab a 50-pound barbell weight and try slinging that thing around, because that's what these mechanics do.
Yeah.
Remember Audi back in the days of their domination of prototype sports car racing had one guy on their crew who was a bit closer to our primate predecessors than you and I. I mean, this guy was big, but he would come out into the pit lane during a tire stop carrying 2 tire and wheel sets and put one on the front and then the other one on the rear. I mean, it was just, he was the guy who was in the open part of the pit lane, not up against the wall. He had to walk around the car with these 2 tires and sling them on. I mean, he was something to watch. He was very good at it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I bragged about how Ferrari was the pride of the pit lane in Bahrain at the series opener, but today it was all about McLaren. I mean, they got great stops done. Granted, it wasn't a big data pool since pretty much everybody just went with one stop, but they did a great job. So hats off.
Yeah, not only are they heavier, and one of the big reasons you talked about the cars being longer and everything else, but they're bigger. They're 18 inches around now, and so there's a more wheel to tire ratio, so it's going to be heavier. But also, I mean, and this is we're thinking if you're comparing the fastest pit stops now, which are that 2:31 so far in this year, versus the 190 somethings. If you recall, last year they made an interim change, and it was to the computerized version of the guns that made them less automated and more gun guy driven. In other words, the guy that's operating it had more control over what was happening, and they started to get slower last year. If you recall, they weren't. I don't know if we even got a sub 2 second last year, but they were definitely consistently a little slower. So there's both of those elements have made them. So whatever the McLaren team has done to make those faster has made a big difference. So
yeah, there were a lot of safety concerns with these lightning fast stops as well.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I think that was the reason that they made that initial change, wasn't it, to the electronics?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I want to shift gears just a little bit because I don't want to forget this story. And Chris Medland's not with us tonight, but he had an article in Racer Magazine, racer.com, where they had reached out to the Andretti team, Bob. And I know as you saw that same story and put it in, if you want to talk about that.
Well, I found it interesting, and I read the same story. I can't imagine what's holding up Michael Andretti's application to field a team in Formula One beginning in 2024. As Michael has talked about on a number of occasions, this is not the work of a moment to get your facility together, get your personnel together, get a car designed, and the whole production process. And keep in mind, this is not something that Andretti Autosport, in any of the various series that it competes in, they don't necessarily do the kind of fabrication on a scale that you have with a Formula One team. So, they got a lot to do. And I just can't imagine what's holding up the FIA, coming up with it's a binary response. Yes, you are, or no, you're not. And, it's not doing Michael and his investors and the American race fans or race fans all over the world any favors to be dragging out this process, if in fact that's what's happening. Now, I'm not at that table. I don't hear the arguments or know what the protocols are. But if Michael is correct when he says, I have the money, I can, write you a check right now, we'll get started, just give me the green light. And yet it hasn't happened. Now, that's got to be extraordinarily frustrating. I wish we had Les with us, because he spoke with Adam Andretti, as he mentioned during our pre-race show, and maybe we could have gotten some insight there. But I personally find it really annoying. Just let Michael go to work or don't.
Yeah, and I did talk to Adam about it, and honestly, I think Adam is he's either purposefully or he can't say anything, but he didn't really have a whole lot of insight. He said he's kind of learning the same thing we are in the news. So, but yeah, we had Mario Andretti on our South by Southwest panel about, I don't know, I guess it's been a month ago now. And he just talked about how this is going to be a process. And, I was thinking when you were saying, are they dragging their feet? They did just start the season, and there's a lot of distraction right now with everything that it takes to get the first 3 races going. So
that's true.
It could just be part of that, which I totally get.
Sure. Of course. Yeah. I can understand that. Although, well, no, let's just leave it at that. I can understand where that might be a problem. Also, dealing with the incredible supply chain issues that Formula One has been going through, and probably all other forms of motorsports as well. Recall that the Haas team almost didn't get their gear to Saudi Arabia in time for the race in Jeddah. And then we had more freight for a number of teams that was put on a ship, which is the regular order of business in Formula One. You have multiple sets of equipment, including the garage closures, body work, stuff like that. And you send ships here and there around the world so that stuff is waiting for you when you get to wherever the race is. But that's not happening. And the transportation partner for Formula One, DHL, had to send 3 jumbo cargo planes to Singapore to pull that ship into port and pull the containers off that ship and send them on to Melbourne. So, that's kind of a high wire act. And Formula One's been able to avoid crashing and burning on the delivery of all of the team's equipment to the race sites. But I mean, how many chances do you want to take?
Yeah, I think we're going to see this continuing, because MotoGP had some issues getting here to Austin.
That's right.
This week. So I think this could be something that we're going to have to just deal with. And
yeah, where did they race? MotoGP raced in, I want to say, Argentina, the Rio Tormo circuit.
Yeah,
and they had to cancel all of their Friday practice running because they didn't have everything there.
Yeah, I think this is something that all international motorsports that are traveling like they do, if you know this better than I do, Bob, but I did sit down with the guys that, I think it's an Australian company that flies those 747s around the globe for Formula One. I sat down with them years ago, and man, they had a system that was just flawless, right? I mean, you see Formula One teams, if they crash out of the race, they're packing up their stuff before the race is over, and they've got a
Sure.
very, very organized system. But now, there's things that are out of their control. So I think this is going to be something we're going to see a lot of, and I'm not going to be surprised by it. I think the whole world, everything from trying to go to a restaurant and they don't have enough workers. I think the whole world has changed, and I think supply chain's a big part of that too.
Yeah, you can run your schedules only so tight before you simply don't have any more time. And time is the one thing you can't buy or create or fabricate. You've got what you've got. We all do. And we'll see what happens. Don't step over the line.
Don't step over the line. Yeah. I did notice that Charles Leclaire got driver of the day. I was going to ask you, I mean, that was the easy choice. I was thinking maybe one of the McLaren drivers, maybe in the running for that. What about you?
Yeah, I could go with that. Where's my results? And I think Alex Albon deserves a word or two. I mean, he drove pretty courageously there on one set of tires for
Yeah, good
55
point.
laps or whatever it was. Yeah, Lando Norris in particular. Yeah.
Yep.
But Charles Leclerc, I kept thinking, we've talked more about the Windstar cruise that I host as the F1 expert, and we're going to sail in May from Barcelona, Spain, and go to Monaco for the Grand Prix, and then wrap up in Rome. And I was thinking, if Charles Leclerc can win in Monaco, where he was born, they're going to tear that town to pieces.
Yeah, tear down the goalposts.
Yep, absolutely. That'll be such a big thing in Monaco. That'd be really exciting.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking about the schedule, and I was also making sure that we had our credentials lined up. We are less than 30 days from Miami, Bob. Can you believe that this is almost here?
Mm-hmm. Did you see the virtual drone tour of the Miami circuit?
Yes.
That was big on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was really
it
well
was more
done,
of a
wasn't
sales
it?
piece. Huh?
It was well done. I was really exciting to
Very
watch
well
that.
done. But it, at least personally, I think it was there to sell all of these luxury grandstands and boxes and things and seats. And I kept, beating on the screen saying, no, show me the track. Show me the track. Don't show me. I don't care about the canopies and the,
Well, that's true.
Whatever.
Well, I'm just
it's
excited we're that
days.
close,
Yeah.
I tell you what, Bob, I'm going to just tease a little bit because we talked about Miami and we talked about Vegas. We do have those two really good interviews. Let's go ahead and get our break in now because I'm going to play those interviews right after this because we're on top of the break. We got two really good interviews from the CEO of Liberty Media and, of course, Stefano Domenicali of Formula One. We'll be back after these messages.
Hi, this is Jeff Gordon, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
The Speed City F1 post-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. Don't forget that XM on the end. That helps us. You know what, Bob? We were talking about CrowdStrike a while ago and for all the cyber attack stuff, but have you noticed how much motorsport they are sponsoring? They are everywhere, and I love that. I love how much technology is in Formula One now, but I love how CrowdStrike, they're all over, all levels of a lot of sports car and everything.
Yeah. How do you feel about crypto? A lot of that is seeping into sponsorship deals too.
Well, when we were talking about, Jonathan Green and I were talking about that, and I said, you know what crypto reminds me of? And he thought this was a good comparison, and I'll let you judge this. I think I'm comparing crypto to cigarette money of the old days because there's so much of it. It's pouring into motorsports right now, pouring into Formula One. I mean, look at the crypto.com
Yeah.
Grand Prix. So, but there is the negative side of crypto, whereas, illicit deals get done with crypto. I am not anti-cryptocurrency, and I know enough about it. I know enough about blockchain to be dangerous. And I do feel like that it can be one of the currencies, if not the currency of the future. But I also do like the fact that the American dollar, makes our economy stable, is now and currently the world standard. But it's
Yep.
really interesting. But what do you think about my comparison, first of all, and what do you think about crypto?
Well, Warren Buffett, the famously super successful investor from Omaha, Nebraska, the sage of Omaha, once said, never invest your money in a company that you don't understand. And I do not understand cryptocurrency, blockchain, all that stuff. I mean, I could probably get the nuts and bolts down, but the whole concept just doesn't make sense to me. And that's probably my shortcoming, but I'm certainly not going to grab a big fat old stake in cryptocurrency until I do figure out what the heck I'm actually looking at.
Well, what you say about him reminds me of an old saying I've been in technology a lot of my life is vaporware, where companies would get their stock price up because they would go and have a fancy presentation and talk, and then it would get labeled as vaporware because none of it ever happened.
Where's the beef?
Yeah, there you go. And it never became anything. It was just vaporware. There was no hardware, no software. It was no nothing. But okay, we've gone completely off track. I will talk one more thing. We had a really amazing presentation here in Austin I say amazing. It was a very huge show from Elon Musk and the Tesla people when they did the grand opening of the mega giant manufacturing facility here in Austin. And I watch Elon Musk and, because that plant is about 5 minutes from COTA, from Circuit of the Americas. And we keep thinking this could be a great match made in heaven of some sort of synergy between the two. And it's particularly with the sustainability focus of Formula One these days. But watching Elon Musk on stage is no Steve Jobs. He is so awkward. And I get why some of those stock guys were doubting him because he is really poor. He doesn't do a good job of selling his own product. The proof is in the pudding, though. They're about to sell them. They almost sold them. Well, they have sold 1 million cars in the last rolling 12 months. So, all right, forgive us, everybody. We veered off of Formula One. We're going to go back to some Formula One discussion, and we're going to talk about lost wages, because Formula One is coming to Las Vegas, as everybody knows now. We have 3 races in 2023. It's going to be in November. The date is TBD. It looks like anywhere from the second or third weekend, and of course, weekend, I say weekend, because it's going to be a Saturday night race. Let's not forget that. Not only is it a night race, but it's a Saturday race. When's the last time we had a Saturday race, Bob, in Formula One?
Boy, I'd have to research that, but it's been quite a long time.
Yeah.
Certainly never happened at Indianapolis or Watkins Glen or Las Vegas the first time, or Dallas or Phoenix. I don't know if there's ever been a Formula One race. Well, sorry, I was thinking of man-made light and not Saturday race.
Yeah.
I'm sure there must have been a Saturday race at some point for some very good reason. I was in Japan once at the Suzuka circuit where they ran the race on a Saturday because there was a typhoon expected on Sunday and everybody wanted to get their business and get the heck out of there. But you do mention that it's a night race on a Saturday, which makes me wonder how they're going to illuminate Las Vegas. Granted, you would think that wouldn't be a problem with all that neon and all the gaudiness of Vegas, but it's going to have to be illuminated to a certain medical, physical standard. And that's an expensive proposition if you think about places like Singapore, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and so on. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch it unfold. Assuming it does, after the issue we talked about in our pre-race show, that somebody has come forward to say, hey, wait a minute, I had that idea first. So
Yeah.
let's go talk to the judge.
I don't know. I don't know why I didn't take that too seriously. I need to go back and read that article again. But I mean, the producer just popped in my ear. Casey, producer extraordinaire, said 1985. So where was it, Casey? He says doesn't say. He's going to keep looking.
Yeah, he's got a computer there.
One of the things that I thought was fascinating was how they talked about they want to make it a landmark race. But we've got some clips where they talk about both of these things that we've just been discussing. And we got two great clips from as high as it gets, because Chris Medland was there at Vegas for the launch. He and I knew about it for about a week before, and we had our wheel-to-wheel show on Wednesday that we do, and we had to keep quiet because it was about 3 hours before the launch that we were recording it. So, but we got two interviews. One is Greg Maffei. He's a CEO of Liberty Media that owns Formula One, and then we have Stefano Domenicali. So let's start with Domenicali talking about the Vegas launch. And we're having trouble getting it to play.
I can do an Italian accent.
It's probably because it's an M4A and not an MP3. Now it's working? Okay.
Sure.
There we go.
I mean, Stefano, we are overlooking the strip right now. I mean, every neon sign that I can see has got F1 Las Vegas 2023 written on it. I mean, you cannot miss the fact that Formula One is coming here. Just how excited are you to be able to announce this race?
We are very excited, but it's a great responsibility because we've discussed before with the local authorities, with the governor, just for few occasions, the strip was, turned into the logo of something. Very special occasion. And we are one of these few occasions. Therefore, means there is a lot of expectation about us being here, and there will be a lot of thrill around that event. And we're gonna be here with a great partners to make sure that this event will be very, very important and very strong.
I mean, we've got the stickers around us. We can see that Formula One's coming to Las Vegas, but as you look down that, as normal traffic is currently moving up and down the strip, can you imagine this turning to a racetrack? Is it still not seem a little bit unbelievable to you what's going to happen here?
Sometimes I think the same, but if you close your eyes and think what will be the effect of a track here, it will be unique, and it will be magnificent. And I'm sure that there is a lot of curiosity from the community here to see how this will be, because everyone can have a different perspective of what is going to happen. But will be, as I said, I can see, the traffic, that will be there, not at the racing time, but I can see the track here turning that around and be around this city. That will be, something spectacular.
It's going to be amazing, and the location is something I want to focus on because we're all very excited for Miami and what that will bring, but the initial iteration of that circuit was downtown, and in the end, logistically, it had to move. Here it almost looks like it was your first choice. Is that the case? Did you kind of map out this circuit and say we'd love to do that, and they've made it happen?
I would say that thanks to the great relation we built down with a major founding partner here, we were able to do that. To come in Las Vegas not being here in the strip wouldn't be no choice in terms of not being able to be here, because it's not something that would have been with the same kind of attraction. Therefore, I think that the beauty of this project is because we are having, and every day is building up a great relationship with all the partners here. That is very, very special.
And something else that's special about it will be a Saturday night race, the first one since I think the 1985 South African Grand Prix. I say memory serves me right, but my research serves me correctly. What does that mean for the weekend schedule, though? What will it be? Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Will it be totally different? How's it going to look?
To be honest, we are still thinking how to work on that. We need to minimize the impact on the strip activity, for sure, but we need to make sure that everything is done accordingly to the sporting regulation. Therefore, we have the time to prepare it, but for sure, doing a reverse engineering, we need to make sure that we keep fixed the Saturday night and see how we need to do the free practice.
And how will this race then, adding a third one in America, complement the existing ones that you guys have? I mean, we haven't seen Miami yet, but we can see that there's differences between there and Austin.
Yeah, I mean, Miami will be an incredible experience. Everyone is so excited to be there. Me too, of course. But the beauty is that we're going to have 3 different audiences. We're going to have 3 different places. We're going to have 3 different situations to live. And everyone will have its own personality. And that's the reason why we do believe that this will add an incredible value to the championship.
Yeah, and we've had the race date only said as November next year, no specific date given to us yet, and I won't try and get that out of you because I know contractually you have to kind of wait for that to be finalised, but will it be kept separate from Austin and be part of a wider American swing, or could those two actually live as a pair?
No, we have not yet finalized that calendar strip, or the calendar strip is always the word because we are on the strip, but we're going to do that in the next couple of months.
Okay, but the way that the sport's grown here, do you think there is room to do that, to have races that are that close together?
I think so, but as I said, we need to consider other things related to logistics or other things that we need to put in the table of discussion. But of course, our objective is to maximize for each of these events the profitability, the attendances, and because this is the reason why we are so successful. So we're going to take the right decision.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, that'll be 3 races then for Formula One in the US. Do you feel like you've cracked America now?
I think that if you think where was F1 just a couple of years ago, and think where it is today and where it will be in the next couple of years, that is something that, is a hell of a responsibility once again. For sure, the new way of taking the American audience was very important, but we need to make sure that our sport is very close to the traditional value of having incredible racing around the world. But of course, there's no doubt that the US is the most growing market that we have so far in our sport.
And it's one that you guys targeted, wasn't it? Liberty Media said they wanted to focus on the US and they wanted destination cities. You've got Miami, you've now got Vegas racing on the Strip. Is this proof that you guys are delivering on your promises?
Yeah, I think that with facts, as always. We are doing that, and we can keep doing that because the growth of our sport is connected to be current with the strategy.
And just finally, adding another race, though, probably puts pressure on some existing races. Kind of, is there any news on other races, whether they be trying to get contract extensions or maybe races that we will see drop off the calendar next year?
It's too early to say. We are discussing with some of them that, of course, by adding another area, we need to make some other choices. But it's part of our process to make sure that every will be strong, superb, unique, and this is the target that we're going to hit in the next couple of months.
And there won't be 30 next year, will there?
I would say we could, yeah, but not to be misunderstood. It's just because the request is very, very high. We will not go in this direction, but as I said, that's showing how strong today is from around the world.
Awesome. Stefano, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Las Vegas, baby. I am looking forward to this. How about you, Bob?
Absolutely. For all the reasons that Stefano mentioned. He caught me off guard with that. We could do 30 races next year. We've talked about that on previous shows, because Formula One is that popular, and there are countries around the world and promoters around the world that will pay big bucks to have a Formula One race. But that doesn't get you around the fact that you're going to burn the teams to the ground trying to do the kind of set up and pack up and travel and all that kind of thing. So you're going to have to get really creative, I think, in terms of finding ways to ease the burden on the teams, whether you do that through financial subsidies that allows them to hire more personnel so they can rotate their crews going to these various races around the world and give the people some time off. Otherwise, I said it in the pre-race show, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Is that what I said?
If you didn't say it that way, that's a pretty good way to say it. And it is 3 in the morning for me, and almost 4 in the morning for you. So I'm going to give that to you. Exactly. How about that?
More is not always better.
There you go. Oh, that's good that you were able to dig that up. All right, well, let's get our last break in. When we come back, we'll have a little more discussion for you before we fall asleep. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Mario Andretti, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
Thank you, Mr. Andretti, for bringing us back. So in the last segment, we had that interview from Stefano Domenicali talking about Las Vegas. We have one more that we're going to play here in just a second. We have Greg Maffei, who's the CEO of Liberty Media that own Formula One. But before we do that, Bob, I want to back up just a little bit because we're about to have 3 races in the United States, which is a phenomenal thing. But the fact that we've got 3 coming, and it wasn't that long ago when Miami was first being talked about, wasn't even official yet. We were talking to Bobby Epstein, the founder and managing CEO of Circuit of the Americas. He never said that it was a horrible thing, but he was pushing against it and didn't like the fact that they were going to have a second race. But there were all of us that wanted that second race. We're trying to justify it, saying, hey, this is going to be a rising tide that lifts all boats. We're going to have different, this one's going to be early in the year, and it is. It's in less than a month, and CODA's not till late October, and all these justifications. And now we're about to have a third race. But now with what's happened with Drive to Survive and all the other things that have made Formula One so popular, we've now got Miami sold out in a matter of hours. COTA sold out in 2 days for this year. So we've got, these races are all selling out, and now I expect Vegas to sell out too. But, I mean, don't you think this is still going to work with 3 races?
I think it is. This came up, and it was a hot topic on the internet for a while. And my old stat assistant, probably the best in the world at what he does, Sean Kelly, came to the defense of the idea of a third race in the United States by saying, look, if you're in Central Europe, within a couple of 100 miles in any direction, you've got like Formula One Grand Prix. Italy, Germany, Spain, France, Belgium, and so on. But if you look at Austin, Texas, Miami, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada, they are more than 1,000 miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like we're piling a whole bunch of races into one market. And each of them is so different. I mean, nobody would say that Miami is a city just like Austin or like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And similarly for all 3 of them. There's a race in Montreal. There's a race in Mexico City. And those locations are, I would guess, almost as far apart as Austin, Vegas, and Miami. So, I think there's a certain amount of petty jealousy at work there, I think.
Yeah, and you could not be, we talked about this a little bit on our Wednesday show, Chris and I, how the cities are very different. But if you think about the population centers, like Austin is right in the middle of Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. I mean, there's tens of millions of people in that little triangle. And of course, Miami being super easy for people to fly from Europe. And of course, it's Miami with its huge party atmosphere. In Vegas, we don't have to even say anything. So very, very unique. But I do want to I want to take us out with this interview from Greg Maffei. And Greg Maffei is CEO of Liberty Media, which is the company that bought Formula One a few years ago for like $8 billion. And I love his take on this because you can feel his excitement in all of the about what's about to happen in Vegas and what's been happening before. So, Bob, I know you need to go, so thank you very much. But I'm going to go ahead and play this interview for everybody who's going to stay. And it's a really fascinating interview because he talks all about Vegas. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, John.
All right, let's hear from Greg Maffei.
So, Greg, thank you very much for joining us. We're stood overlooking the Strip. I mean, I can see the backdrop of so many resorts. This is an iconic view that, as someone from outside of the US always dreamed of coming to, let alone to see a Formula One race on. I mean, just how big a deal is this for Formula One?
Well, I think it is, as you note, an iconic place. We like to think we're an iconic sport. Bringing the two together is a natural marriage. The glamour, the uniqueness of the events here, I think it's a perfect marriage. We I think it is absolutely a big thing for Formula One. Not only that we're coming with our third race in the U.S., which will be unique in terms of being a night race down the strip, but also that we are going to fulfill a larger role here, be the promoter, really be involved in helping sell the race, working with our local partners. Sort of a different role for us, and I think it's indicative of the opportunity we see here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, actually on that, I was going to say, how big a deal is it then for Liberty? Because it is a different one. It's not the normal promoter model that you guys have done with previous races.
Yeah, it is unique. It's the only one we've done. We thought there was an opportunity here which was larger. There's one where we could be. We thought we could create something unique for not only our fans, but the television viewers, for the local partners, and ultimately for Formula One itself. So we'll see if that comes to pass. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I guess, would it then maybe be a template for potentially future races where you see opportunities that you guys can help make them happen? Because sometimes some great ideas like this just don't get off the ground.
Well, look, I think we're going to be, we have great local partners in many markets. We're going to be better for them by being a partner, being a promoter ourselves, and understanding what their challenges are. Could I imagine we do this somewhere else? It really depends. Where we can be additive, perhaps. Perhaps we'll assume a different role, a larger role. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all thing, but we'll look for opportunities.
And I know you're talking about the value you can bring, but obviously as Liberty Media and the owners of Formula One, you guys are looking at the value that can be brought to the sport too. So what does a race in Las Vegas bring to Formula One?
Well, we've said it about 1,000 times, the iconic nature. But if you think about what it can do to both grow our U.S. television audience, what it can grow to grow the international fan base who wants to come and see Las Vegas, what it can do for our sponsors and advertisers who are going to see an unbelievable spectacle of a night race down the strip, I think it's additive for lots of people, and hopefully will only grow the sport because of it.
And we heard Nevada Governor Steve say that he thinks this could become the kind of landmark race on the Formula One calendar. Do you see it getting that big? Does it have that potential?
I think it does. We'd love to see a competition of all the venues wanting to be the landmark event. But certainly Las Vegas could make that claim with.
And just how exciting overall is the future for Formula One right now? Because you guys have navigated some tough waters with COVID and come out the other side really strongly. Just how enthused are you for the future?
I'm incredibly enthused. Credit to the teams, to the FIA, our regulator, and to Formula One itself for being able to pull off over 15 races during COVID, to have 22 last year, on our way to 23 this year. Great momentum, both in the number of races, but even more in the attendance at races. I think it was mentioned that 5 or 6 years ago we couldn't do 100,000 fans at Austin. Last year we did 400,000 fans, largest race ever done for Formula One here in the U.S. The growth is on a great trajectory, really around the globe, but no more so than here in the U.S.
Yeah, and just finally, you mentioned the growth in the U.S. I mean, one race is already there, a second race is about to happen, a third race is now on the calendar. I think you can see what I'm going to ask, but you've had talks with other cities. Is this where it stops, or could there be even more growth in the future?
We still don't have any plans, and there's no place where we have 3, so let's see how we do here with the 3.
Okay, well, we can't wait to see it. Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, it's going to be exciting, and we can't wait for Vegas. I want to wrap up the show talking a little bit more about the Australian Grand Prix, because it was amazing to have that race back after that day back in 2020 when we almost had a race at the start of COVID. And you saw the fans, huge crowd, 419,000 people. Fantastic to have racing back in Australia. How many years did we have? It was the start of the season. I know we didn't have that this year, but it kind of still felt like it. So it was a fantastic race and great to have it back. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, on SiriusXM, wherever you're listening. And if you are on any of those and you like what you heard, give us a like, give us a follow. And we have lots of different coverage. We got Chris Medland at all the races this year, giving us live microphone interviews up and down the paddock and pit lane. It's really fantastic. Chris wasn't with us tonight because he was not feeling well. He's traveled all over the globe, around the globe. He was here in the States at Vegas. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. We have lots of coverage. And go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, because you can find out lots more about what you can hear from us. We have a regular Sunday night show that no matter what, rain, snow, sleet, or whatever, we are on Sunday night talking motorsports, so make sure you tune in. Thanks, everyone, and we'll talk to you next Sunday.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.